Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Holy Plot. This is Liam, Jacob, and James. You know the drill by now. We are talking about My Adventures with Superman, Zero Day Part 2. Phenomenal episode, but before we get into it, I just want to remind you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You're telling me that when you push that subscribe button, there's a chance that you have awesome content in your feed every single week?
The chance of you not enjoying our channel is near zero.
Near zero?
What more do you want from theory alone?
What more do I want? I want to talk about Superman. Jacob, what did you think about this episode?
Yeah, so I feel like I say this every week, and I think if you go back and watch these reviews, I probably have. Last week was definitely a whole nother level of the show's quality, in my opinion. I think you guys agree with me on that.
Definitely.
And I
Yeah.
do believe that this episode is my favorite so far. I think the whole theme of the show is kind of starting to finally climax, and it's really contextualizing some of the choices that they made earlier in the show, particularly with Lois. And basically, I feel that the show is directly confronting misunderstanding Superman. And especially in this episode with Parasite, I feel that moment is basically like the mission statement of this show. What do you guys think?
Definitely. I couldn't
agree.
agree more. And I think that it's really interesting that the show is coming out when it is. This seems like the perfect Superman story to tell right now, going into a new cinematic universe, making new fans of the character before the DC universe really gets going in earnest again. And it's just really refreshing to see a take on this character, especially that is so. I guess I'll use the word like earnest. My
Mhm.
favorite
Yeah.
moment in the episode, and it was also probably my favorite moment in the last episode, which I totally agree with you, Jacob. I think this is the best episode of the show. Is I love it whenever they showcase Clark's super hearing in this show.
It's so good.
It's very
Yeah,
well used every time that they use it.
yeah, especially in this episode where he's getting up and he's hearing not just Lois, because I think a lot of times in Superman media they can sort of lean on that too much, but he's hearing the kids, he's hearing Lois, he's hearing even characters we haven't seen before, just all throughout Metropolis, basically saying, "Get up, Superman," and that was really cool.
Everybody in Metropolis watches Flamebird. They're all
Yeah,
Flamebird
that
fans.
was funny. It's like the entire
Well,
city turns off their power.
I've
But it
Now,
was
heard
it was heartwarming. I'll allow it.
this is a bit of a tangent, but it'll get to my point, I promise. People, when they've ever talked about a Superman game, have thrown around the idea that Superman's health bar should be Metropolis,
Oh, that's cool.
and
oh,
that like
interesting.
if you were to have a Superman game, your health would go down when Metropolis was, depending on its state, kind of like a karma system. And I
Huh.
felt
No,
like
that's really cool, actually.
That is interesting.
this episode is the best display of that I've seen in a long time. I think it's why a lot of people criticize Man of Steel, for obvious reasons.
Definitely.
Well, yeah,
So
that kind of
it's
ties
just
into even one thing that I liked from this episode.
the people that are making this understand the character and they understand what people want,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so needed for Superman. James, what was that you wanted to say?
Well, I wanted to say that I think that even more than the show talking about misunderstanding Superman, and I know this can be a little silly, I think that it also shows that there's a misunderstanding of Clark because, sometimes, people be like, oh, well, Superman is the real personality. I feel like there's even schools
Oh
of
God,
thought on the
Kill
creative
Bill
side to it.
too.
Not even that, but people are just like, he's his most authentic self when he's Superman. I think he's his most authentic self, not when he's like the Smallville reporter, but basically when he's with Lois.
Yeah.
And that's
For sure,
Clark.
yeah.
And I feel like this version more than ever, because he's so young, you really see the Clark side that he doesn't fully just absorb into the Superman persona yet. And the scene where I felt like that was the strongest was when they just found him alone, just sitting there in a room. I mean, he felt like just he was crushed because of what he thinks the Kryptonians are.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I thought that was an example of kind of doing the burdened by the weight of things like Superman writing, honestly a bit better than maybe some of the stuff we saw in like BVS with like him watching the news.
I would
I
say
don't know.
so.
This felt
BBS
more
just it
earnest.
kind of came across as just like, I don't know, insincere and mopey. Whereas this, he's like, he's clearly trying his best. And that's something I wanted to actually ask you guys as big Superman fans, so specifically you, Jacob. What do we think about sort of the soft retcon it did with Superman's origin?
Well,
I
I think it's a misdirect
genuinely-
personally. I think it's a misdirect. But what do you think,
I
Jacob?
think it could be a misdirect. That's what I'm leaning on right now.
Oh, also
I think that
Brainiac
General
Easter egg?
Wayne has completely misinterpreted the situation, which in very, very good fashion is understandable. Like, you understand where he's coming from. He's not just being like ignorant. Like, it makes complete sense why he feels the way he feels.
Yeah,
So
it makes sense.
I do think it's a misdirect, personally.
You know, he went through that portal, but he wasn't a part of. I assume that's Zod. You know,
Yeah,
and like I said a second ago, bit of a Brainiac Easter egg with his logo on some of those robots. I don't think
gotta
he was
say,
a part of that group.
I gotta say, I really enjoyed how, because some of my biggest criticisms, and I think this was shared by a lot of the internet, and some of the early episodes, were sort of the tech villains feeling disconnected and samey. It was
Yeah.
very, very cool how they tied back even the tech villains to Superman, where the tech isn't just blanket sci-fi, whatever, don't think about it. It's Kryptonian. That was really neat. And speaking
Yeah.
of Kryptonian tech, I can't go one more minute without talking about it.
Yeah,
Parasite,
please
baby.
talk to us about it.
I'm a
Yeah.
big Parasite fan. He's not my favorite Superman villain, but he's up there. This was probably the coolest Parasite stuff I've seen in a long time. I'm also, as luck would have it, a huge kaiju fan, and this was just straight up. They were riffing Shin Godzilla. For those of you who know, you know. Especially at the end when he got paralyzed. He's like a big statue in the middle of the city now. It was 101. It was so cool. It's the last thing I
Awesome.
expected them to do. But he was a totally organic, believable, legitimately threatening antagonist that was built up in these previous episodes across multiple episodes. This was the most spectacular Superman the show has felt, was this stuff right here. This is exactly what I wanted. If you go back and watch a couple episodes ago where I was starting to fall out of love with the show a little bit, this is what I wanted, was this kind of stuff.
And small
That-
detail,
Gotcha.
what a good way to introduce that little gimmick line of Superman's best pal, Jimmy Olsen. I don't know why. That made me smile. I appreciated the hell out of that.
Oh, I
To
didn't
take, like-
catch that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that because it's like that's like this campy little subtitle like for Jimmy Olsen, and so I liked
Mhm.
that they found a way to naturally bring that in.
Yeah, the whole monologue with Jimmy and Lois, and then Clark like finishing it off, kind of like was everything I needed from a Superman show. And
Don't you read the news?
yeah, I don't think if you were a Superman fan, you could have come out of this episode unsatisfied. I love when he uses X-ray vision, and it kind of feels like the first time he's like really mastering it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he sees Ivo inside of Parasite, like Attack on Titan, which cracked me up.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that was totally Attack. That's hilarious. I didn't connect that.
Oh my
and
god.
then that shot when he flies through him and like the background turns white. That
The
was-
Holdo maneuver.
And I am gonna give this. What are you guys gonna give this?
I'm
9.
giving it a 9, yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 9, a very strong 9.
Wow. 9s
have it.
across the board. That's good shit right there.
2 in a
Well-
row. Let's see if they keep delivering.
Yeah, here we go. So how many episodes do we have left?
1.
Damn. Well, if you don't want to miss it, which you don't, as I just told you, you got to subscribe, man. I don't know what else to tell you. You just got to do it. So like, comment, subscribe. Be back here next week. Same bad time, same super channel. You know, it's whatever. Holy plot. Thanks.